Hi everyone, welcome to Dynamic Sketching. My name is Patrick Ballesteros and I will be your tour guide in these next 8 weeks. So looking around, it may look like I am in an episode of Jurassic Park, which I'm not. I wish I were. However, we are at the Arboretum in Arcadia, California, where Jurassic Park was shot, which is kind of cool. But I want to actually introduce this class outdoors just because you're going to be going outdoors. You're going to be going on several field trips, looking at anything from plants to animals to insects. But before we get into that, I just want to talk a little bit about the class and introduce it to you. This class is all about mileage and getting out there and learning how to see things that are in front of you, that are outdoors, that are alive. And that's the great thing about this class. You're going to be armed with your tools of the trade, your sketchbook, your pen, and you're going to be going out there without any pencils, without any underlays, and just drawing. It's going to be a lot of work, but it's going to be a lot of fun. And again, why I love this class, why I love teaching it so much is because of the importance that we stress of going on field trips. Now, you may not have exotic locations like this in your neighborhood, but we'll give you alternatives. For instance, for the Arboretum, you can go to a local park or nursery, anywhere with plants. But definitely as much as possible when we're doing a lot of our on-site exercises, drawing from life is so important. You're going to learn so much. Well, that's enough about me talking. Let's get the class started, and we're going to go into the studio to talk about some of the beginning concepts. Okay? Thanks, everybody, and looking forward to it. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. We're in the studio now. As you can see, we got a whiteboard. So we're going to start with this week's lesson, Lesson 1. Now, visualization. Visualization is what dynamic sketching is all about, and our ability to visualize and take that and translate those 2D forms to 3D forms is today's emphasis. And it's going to be actually the emphasis for the whole duration of dynamic sketching, but let's take things one step at a time. Let's start off with the most basic of 2D forms that are universally known. We've seen them across different cultures, different languages, and I'll start drawing them right now. There's 3 of them that I use, so say it out loud, say it in your head. Just to make sure we're on the same page, I'll draw it down. First one, of course, being triangle. Simple 3-sided shape. All right? Next one, of course, is the square. So this isn't anything new for anyone, but these are the forms that or not the forms, but these are the 2D flat forms that we're working with. Last being circle, right? So this is the 2D part that we have all grown and used over and over again in our drawing trials and errors. Now what we're doing is we are actually taking this a step further, making things a little bit more complex by adding dimension and depth and volume. How do we do that? Well, first we have to think about the terminology that we're using. We have to use terms that apply to what we're going to be drawing in this class. So the first one, instead of triangle, it's a cone. That's one of the first shapes in the 5 forms we're going to be using in this class. Okay? Next, another variation on the triangle, pyramid. So simple pyramid. So again, these are things that you've seen, you've used, everyday life, even to different cultures. Next up would be not a square, but a cube. Again, giving these things volume, having them stick out and off of the page. Not a circle, but a sphere. So indicating the sphere by indicating that there is a highlight and a cast shadow, giving it form. And last but not least, another form of a sphere is now we're taking that sphere and stretching it out. What do we get? A nice cylinder. All right? So 2D to 3D. In essence, that's the whole class. We're not stopping there because that would be a horrible class. We're keeping going with this. All right? Keep going with this. How do we do that? Well, that visualization is the bridge between these two, and that's what we're going to be working on. So this part right here, our ability to take this, turn it into that. That's primarily what dynamic sketching is about. Now, it gets more and more interesting as the weeks go on, as we cover different subject matter, as discussed when we were at the Arboretum. But we have to take things one step at a time. The one thing that I want you to realize is, yeah, these exercises are simple. Yes, you could have done these without the class, but there's a reason. And that's what you're getting from this class, is a reason to why I'm doing these simple exercises, a reason to why I'm thinking about these simple forms and how to use them. All right? So that visualization, it's part of a 3-step process to dynamic sketching. All right? So that's part 1. That's actually part 2. Part 1 is seeing. Now, this may sound silly, but in dynamic sketching, we are learning to see. What does that necessarily mean? I see with my eyes every day, right? You need to see things with an analytical eye. You need to see things not for the detail, but for the shapes and those foundational forms that are underneath. When I'm looking at a tree, when I'm looking at a plant, I'm not looking and counting every individual leaves. I'm not looking at the veins or the color. What I'm looking at is, which of these forms up here can I use to get my drawing started, to give me volume? That's what I'm looking for. And no matter what skill level you're at, that is honestly the hardest thing to do, is to think that simple. It's very hard. So we're practicing. And that's what we're here to do, is to kind of ingrain this into your head. That mileage. Mileage is a key word. And every week, I want you to write mileage at the top of your sketchbook. Every week, every page. As a reminder that this isn't going to come just from whatever homework I give you in class, or whatever, however many pages you do. It's that repetitive week after week, dynamic 1 to dynamic 2. It's that reinforcement that's going to get you to that 3D level. All right? So seeing, super important. The next thing is visualization. What exactly? Visualization. I can spell, just wait. There. Visualization. That's basically, after you see something, it's organizing those shapes, organizing what you're going to draw in your head. It's basically seeing and then picking which one from here you're going to actually apply, constructing it, putting things together. So a lot of the drawing that I do happens in my head before I even start. And that just comes naturally with years of practice, with just repetitive studies, going out, drawing on site, drawing for my students, drawing for you guys. All right? Still with me? Brains okay? All right, I'm going to keep going. The last thing, I'll put it down here, is execution or executing. So seeing, what are you drawing? Visualization, how do you break it down? What are the forms? Executing, how do you draw it? This and this are the easy parts. Visualization, it's basically that bridge from our brain to our hand, and that's where things get lost. It's almost as if you played a game of telephone and you're whispering in a friend's ear and it travels down the line. By the end, it's a totally different word than what you started with. That's what happens with drawing. You automatically know what you want to draw in your head. But by the time you draw it, you're like, oh my gosh, that looks like nothing that I wanted to draw. That's because that visualization is a step we have, is a step that we need to cultivate, that we need to develop more so that it becomes instinctual. You just knock it out. Again, comes with mileage. So seeing, visualization, executing. 3-step process. There's more, but I want to keep it right about there for week 1, just for you guys to digest and to understand and to kind of soak in a little bit. Okay? So we are going to get to drawing, I promise, but this is important because it sets up the tone for the class. It prepares you for what you have to do. We're not sprinting, we're running a marathon. And in a marathon, it's the long game. It's training and preparing for the long haul. All right? So think about that for a second. I'm going to prepare for the actual exercises, and we'll get rolling with actual drawing. All right? So quick little break, then come back. All right, so let's keep going. Now, remember that word mileage. I'm going to write it up here because I want you to write it already. Put it at the top of your page, starting with the note-taking or the exercises that you're going to start, okay? So I'm writing it in red because anything in red is important. That's a rule in life, I think. That's a very light red. So what we're going to do is write it in orange because everything next that's important in life is written in orange. So there we go. Mileage. Most of you know what mileage is. And I think you should really think about the word mileage. Mileage is the time you put into things. It's the effort you put into things. Not just doing it just to do it, but doing it with intent. And that's what dynamic sketching is all about, is drawing with intent. Now, what I mean about that is you're not just searching for random things. You're really thinking about the lines. You're really thinking about the shapes so that when you put it down, that is what you meant to put down. And that's how you become cleaner. That's how you become faster. All right? Drawing fast is an illusion. People that say they draw fast, it's not that they're actually physically drawing fast, it's that they have control of whatever tool they're using. They have control of the pen, and that's how they can draw fast. They can control their lines. What they put down is exactly where they want to put it. Now for beginners, even myself starting out, it wasn't like that. It looked like basically I was shaking uncontrollably every day, like, oh my God, what's wrong with my hand? It's totally shaking. It's that nervousness that I want to do well feeling, that you want to excel at everything that you do. But not just with mileage. The thing that I want you to remember in this class is this, and I'm going to write it to be more dramatic. You are allowed to make mistakes. All right? These two go hand in hand. They're married. It's a bond. You can't get rid of them. One comes with the other. Mileage comes with doing a lot of great things, but mileage also comes with making mistakes, making horrible drawings, totally messing up. Happens to me all the time. I won't hide it. I'm not one of those guys that can knock something out from the first get-go. It doesn't happen. Sometimes it takes me 3 or 4 times, but my personality is I'm very tenacious. I will not give up. And as an artist, you have to have that mentality that it may not come as easily to you as to others. Who cares? Every person is different. Every student is different. I treat all of you different in regards to how you're learning things. My main goal is at the end for each of you to improve in your own way. And that's what will happen if you put in the mileage and if you let yourself make mistakes. You have to make the mistakes. One of my teachers said, for every 100 mistakes, you get 1 good outcome, 1 good problem solved. That's a lot of mistakes I have to make. But over time, you take that mistake, put it away, you take that good decision, you pocket it up here in the brain, you log in enough of those, that's where the speed comes from. That's where the confidence in your line comes from, is because you've made horrible mistakes. I guarantee any artist that you look at online, what you're looking at is maybe 10% of the work that they feel is the most awesome that they've done. The other 90%, they're never going to see the light of day because it's all what they consider to be mistakes. But it's important to your learning. All right? So once you start to understand that and accept that, then we can move on to drawing. Then we can move on to getting good. But this has to happen. You have to openly accept that. Then we can move on. All right? Cool. Let's actually get to the first exercises. Very simple, but as I said before, keeping things simple is the hardest thing. Going back to basics is the hardest thing for a lot of us to swallow, but you got to do it. That's how we learn. So on your page, let's say this is your page right here.